Good morning. I am Jim Smith, CIO for the state of Maine, and this is State Scoop TV. And with me today is
Paul Sandlin, the Associate CIO for the state of Maine.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. I think if you look at the priorities, a lot of them are sort of protection and setting up the governance groups that we need. So we're doing a lot, obviously, with cybersecurity. The difference on cybersecurity, where before it was really an executive branch exercise, now it's a statewide exercise, and the universities are involved, the National Guard, Maine Emergency Management, all those groups. We're saying not only do we have to protect the executive branch information, we have to help small businesses and citizens of Maine protect their assets and those things. So you've got that very protection thing on cybersecurity, disaster recovery, those type of things, disaster recovery, business continuity, which is a challenge because administrations change and commissioners change, so that long-term strategy. But that's sort of the place I would start saying, the first idea is to protect what we have. And Paul, would you talk a little bit about things we're looking for, maybe on the Agile and stuff like that?
Yeah, we're looking to kind of further our journey with Agile and ingrain it more into our operations. One thing that Jim talked about a few months ago about governance is a key thing, because we're also looking at a transition to sort of a shared services model over the next year. And we can't be successful unless we have good engagement from the agencies in order to help us, guide us. We're dealing, like many states, dealing with significant budget pressures. And we need a collective conversation about what's in, what's out, and how we move forward going into the future.
Yeah, the enterprise one is a fascinating one, as Paul talked a little bit about, some of the budget things and being smarter with dollars. The way you do that is you really have to have an enterprise approach. And, people always think about ERP things like HR systems and finance systems. We have to be much more expansive than that. We have to look at each agency and say, what is your primary function? Is it licensing? Is it some sort of public safety, that type of thing? Things we can use over and over again. And so we put together a governance group that's ourselves, the IT management plus management from the larger agencies, and saying, okay, what do you need to do in the next year, the next 2 years? What's your journey? And who has a similar journey, and how can we combine those things? So as you look at enterprise, and the first aspect of enterprise is cultural, right? Think about it culturally. How do you want to get there, and how can you get there? And I think the second part is governance. So you got to have a willingness, and then you got to have an execution. Paul, would you add anything to that?
There's a sort of a culture of we're the cobbler's children. We're a technology organization, but we are oftentimes the last one they'll invest technology in order to further our ends. We're so heavily driven by labor costs and labor pressures and so forth, and we ourselves are ripe for automation, and that's part of that conversation back with the agencies. If you will invest in us, we will be able to provide far more services to you with less fluctuations in terms of budget pressure and so forth.
Yeah, I don't know if it's tired of, but you certainly hear a lot about, the Internet of Things, IoT, those type of things. We're having those conversations over and over again, and it's a funny nexus for states, because they're not quite there, but we know we have to be. When you think of Internet of Things and you think about sensors and you think all these things are going to be on a network, and the strain that's going to put on a network, and how do you protect them, and from a cybersecurity and those type of things. I think it's something we're wrestling right now. We know it's coming. People are expecting it there, right? But right now it's sort of a buzzword for us, because we're not sure yet the next step, other than to start to work with the different agencies, whether it's body cameras or anything like that, and say, what is this going to mean for us?
Yeah, and that was so hard to wrap your head around what Internet of Things itself. For me, my personal buzzword that I get tired of, and I probably shouldn't do this, but is cyber. When they talk about that, because we've entered a world where there is no security. There simply is no security. We can build the walls, we can make them stronger, we can fortify it and so forth, but we're never going to get to the place where we have absolutely confident that we're completely safe. And it becomes a way of life. It's an ethos, a culture. Don't keep data you don't need. Don't do things that you really can't vouch for forever, that kind of stuff. And so it's hard for me when I have cyber conversations, because I'm thinking, Yeah, we need to go to school. We need to change the way we think. We need to social change is what we need in order to be able to. And I'm not saying technology is not the answer, but it won't get us all the way there.
Well, you always say this during your career, but things are moving faster now than they ever were. And I think if we look at things like Agile, and you think about Agile as project management, Agile is really a cultural change, right? It's organizational change. The idea that, maybe you can get something out there faster, and maybe it's not the 100% solution, but it's a solution, and you start kicking the tires and you start using it, and it gets you there faster. And I think as we look at how technology has changed, obviously there's mobile, there's Internet of Things as we talked about and stuff, but I really think it's that mindset of, is there really a way to do things faster? The idea of the 5-year project and stuff, is there a different way to approach that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's delivering value fast. That's really the key. Bank what you've done as early as possible, and then it makes it so much easier to decide what the next step is, as opposed to envisioning your entire future all at one time and then trying to make it happen.
Yeah. This is State Scoop TV. I am Jim Smith. Thank you for watching.